The audacity of softness, why Black women are done earning the right to rest. You know that moment when you realize you've been holding your breath for years, not literally. Um, Although, let's be honest, as some of us have been doing that too. But I mean that deep soul level breath you forgot you were allowed to take. The one that says, I don't have to be in crisis mode right now. I don't have to earn rest. I don't have to wait until everything is perfect or paid off or proven before I give myself permission to actually live. I recently had the honor of sitting down with Courtney Miller, a visionary who is helping Black women everywhere understand that surviving is not the same thing as living. Courtney is doing transformative work in the world, creating space for high achieving women to stop postponing themselves and start designing lives they can actually be present for. The wisdom they shared isn't just inspiring, it's necessary. And today I want to bring some of that truth to you because here's what we don't talk about enough. You can be excellent at surviving, you can be resilient, strong, capable, high achieving, the one everyone calls when things fall apart, and still be completely disconnected from your own life. You can have the degree, the title, the house, the family, the respect, and still wake up one day and realize you have no idea what joy feels like anymore. That's not failure. That's what happens when you spend your whole life in survival mode and forget to ask yourself, am I building a life I want to survive or a life I want to live? Let me tell you about some women who had to answer that question the hard way. Fast Company recently profiled 21 Black women who were laid off, pushed out, or burned out by traditional workplaces. These weren't women who weren't good enough. These were high performers. Women who had given years, energy, late nights, emotional labor, code switching, over functioning, all of it. And still, the systems they worked within treated them like they were disposable. But here's where the story gets interesting. Instead of just bouncing back into another version of the same grind, these women made a different choice. They used that painful moment to ask themselves, what do I actually want my life to feel like? One of those women is Yana Williams. Yana had built a multi-million-dollar company supporting Black girls. From the outside, it looked like everything was working. But internally, the economic pressures, the constant need to adapt to shifting sponsor priorities, the relentless demand to operate in crisis mode, it was wearing her down. So she made a choice that a lot of people didn't understand. She closed the company, not because it failed, but because she realized that external success doesn't mean anything if you're not internally aligned. She had to ask herself, am I still choosing this life or am I just surviving it? And then she did something even bolder. She came back, but this time she built something that actually fit the life she wanted to live. She created the group chat, a membership community for Black women founders centered around community, culture, and capital. It wasn't about proving she could survive another round of burnout. It was about designing a business that allowed her to show up as a whole person. That's what Courtney Miller calls redefining success. It's not about lowering your standards um, or giving up on your dreams. It's about refusing to build a life where your worth is measured by how much you can endure. Then there's Dawn Kelly. After 16 years in a corporate role, her position was eliminated. She could have scrambled to find another corporate job, another title, another paycheck that came with the same stress and misalignment. But instead, she took business courses, joined small business programs, and co founded the Nourish Spot, a wellness bar, with her daughter. Today, the Nourish Spot has concessions at JFK Airport and the US Open. But more than that, Dawn gets to wake up every day and do work that nourishes her, not just work that pays her. She's not just surviving anymore, she's living. And here's the thing, These women didn't wait for permission. They didn't wait for the perfect moment or the perfect plan. They gave themselves permission to change their minds about what success was supposed to look like. Because that's the second thing Courtney Miller wants us to understand. You're allowed to choose a different life without waiting for a crisis. You don't need a heart attack. You don't need a layoff. You don't need a breakdown or a tragedy or some dramatic wake up call to give yourself permission to say, this doesn't fit me anymore. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to walk away from something that looks good on paper but feels wrong in your body. You're allowed to want more rest, more joy, more presence, more softness, even if you haven't earned it yet by some imaginary standard. We've been taught that you have to wait until you've proven yourself, until you've hit some milestone, until everything is stable before you get to live the life you actually want. But what if that's a lie? What if the life you're working so hard to build is the life you're supposed to be living right now? Morgan DeBon, founder of Blavity, figured this out early. As a Black woman entrepreneur, she faced all the pressure to embody the strong, always on leader. The startup world loves to glorify the grind. Hustle culture tells you that if you're not exhausted, you're not doing enough. But Morgan chose a different path. She built Blavity around sustainable leadership. She centered rest, boundaries, and community. She said no to opportunities that didn't align with her energy. She scheduled therapy as a non negotiable. She asked for support instead of trying to push through alone. And you know what happened? Blavity grew into a major platform for Black voices. Morgan didn't have to sacrifice herself to build something successful. She proved that you can lead softly and still make an impact. That's the third thing Courtney Miller wants us to remember. Softness, presence, and rest are not weakness. They are a new definition of strength. We've been sold this idea that strength means enduring, grinding, never complaining, never slowing down, never needing anything. But that's not strength, that's survival. And survival is exhausting. Real strength is knowing when to rest. Real strength is protecting your peace. Real strength is saying, I don't have to keep proving I can handle hard things. I can choose ease. Softness doesn't mean you're fragile, doesn't mean you're giving up. It means you're done building a life around what you can survive and ready to build a life around what makes you feel alive. And I know some of you are sitting there thinking, that sounds nice, but I have bills. I have responsibilities. I have people depending on me. I can't just walk away from everything and start over. And you're right. This isn't about quitting your job tomorrow or blowing up your whole life. It's about making one small choice today that honors who you are now, not who you were when you first started surviving. Maybe that choice is having an honest conversation about your workload. Maybe it's saying no to one commitment that drains you. Maybe it's booking a solo day of rest without guilt. Maybe it's finally researching that thing you've been too afraid to admit you want. The goal isn't to have it all figured out. The goal is to stop acting like your real life only starts after the next promotion, the next milestone, the next crisis. Your real life is happening right now, and you're allowed to be present for it. Think about the women I just told you about. Yana Williams didn't wait for someone to give her permission to close a multi-million-dollar company. She gave herself permission to honor what was true for her in that season. Dawn Kelly didn't wait for the perfect plan before she left corporate America. She took courses, asked for help, and built something with her daughter that now serves thousands of people. Morgan DeBon didn't wait until Blavity was fully funded and stable before she decided rest was non negotiable. She built rest into the foundation of her leadership from the beginning. These women made choices that honored their humanity. They stopped waiting for the world to tell them they had earned the right to live fully. They decided that their presence, their peace, and their joy mattered now, not someday. And here's what I need you to hear: the world doesn't get better because more women survive hard things. The world gets better when women who have survived hard things decide they deserve to thrive. When you give yourself permission to rest, you give the woman watching you permission to rest. When you set a boundary without apology, you show the next generation that their energy is sacred. When you walk away from what no longer fits, you model what courage actually looks like. Your softness is not a retreat, it's a revolution. So here's what I want you to do. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Name one area where you're just surviving, not living. Just one. It might be your job. It might be a relationship with work. It might be a schedule that never includes rest. It might be a dream you keep postponing. Name it. And then make one decision that honors who you are now, not who you think you're supposed to be, not who you were 5 years ago, who you are right now. Create a no more postponing me practice. Once a week, do something that's purely for the life you want to live. Journal about what you really desire. Take a class, plan a trip, apply for an opportunity, or just rest without explanation, without earning it. Just rest. Because here's the truth: you spent years proving you could survive, and you did. You survived things that would have broken other people. You are strong, you are resilient, you are capable. But surviving is not the same as living. And just because you can survive hard things doesn't mean you should build a life around surviving them. Courtney Miller reminded me of something I needed to hear, and I think you need to hear it too. Softness is not weakness. Rest is not laziness. Choosing a life that feels like yours is not selfish. It's the bravest thing you can do. So I'm asking you today not to wait, not to postpone, not to tell yourself that joy, rest, peace, and presence are things you'll get to someday. Someday is today. Your life is happening right now. And you are allowed to be here for it. You are allowed to choose softness. You are allowed to redefine success. You are allowed to live, not just survive. And when you do, when you finally give yourself permission to be fully present in the life you fought so hard to keep, you don't just change your own story. You change the story for every woman who's been watching you, waiting for permission to do the same. So take the breath, make the choice, start living, because the world doesn't need you to survive one more hard thing. The world needs you to show us what it looks like when a woman who has survived everything finally decides she deserves to experience everything too. That's the revolution. That's the disruption. That's the audacity of softness. And it starts with you.